Hello everyone, I just got this new guitar. It's amazing, a string phonic guitar. It's so light, easy to play, and such a great sound. Anyway, today I'm making a little bit of an advertisement video. Before the pandemic, I had this homestay program going on in Montreal for almost 5 years. And the pandemic year, 2020, would have been the 5th anniversary. But everything stopped because of the pandemic. My life changed because of the pandemic, and now I'm living in Japan. That's another story. But for this summer, from end of June till end of August, I'll be in Montreal. And it's probably going to be the last time I'm going to be able to offer this homestay program where people get to stay with me and study with me. Ever since I started that program, actually I didn't even start it on purpose. Like, I had this big place that I got pretty cheap back in the day. Now it's apparently worth a lot. Anyway, I had this empty room. I didn't know what to do with it. And I posted it on social media, and someone messaged me, "Hey, can I spend a weekend with you to learn from you?" And I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. Sure, why not? So the guy came over, spent the weekend. We had a lot of fun. And I posted that on social media. Then I started getting emails, and I got people from since 2015, September of 2015 until the beginning of the pandemic. My schedule was filled with different things, but a lot of homestay students. I got people from all over the USA, all over Canada, Europe, South America, even South Africa, and even Asia. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, it's the last time I'm going to be offering this because, one thing that's been very difficult for me lately, ever since the pandemic started, I've been losing a lot of money every month because I rented out my apartment to a musician for the deal of the century, really. And every month I lose money from that. And I told that person, all right, I unfortunately I'm not a charity. I need money. And I can't afford to keep losing money every month just to help you out. So this musician will have to move out soon. And I'm going to get new, quote unquote, real tenants who can pay the actual market price. So no one can ever accuse me of being a bad landlord because, man, I was so generous. What kind of landlord operates at a loss, right? I never even planned to be a landlord. If it weren't for the pandemic, I'd be living in Montreal right now. That's just another story. Things just ended up the way they did. So I'm going to go back to Montreal, look after my dear mother as well. Unfortunately, time goes by so fast, and I wish I could look after her more. So this summer I'm going to make sure I cancel a lot of my travel plans this summer, work travel plans, so I can just stay close to her. And I also want to talk about why I kind of don't like to give private lessons online. Some people message me. They seem to have different ideas about why I don't give lessons. It has nothing to do with your level necessarily. One thing is, I'd rather give lessons in person so we can play together. By playing together, I get to see the real you. We play songs, we'll take turns, you accompany me, I accompany you, and then we'll see exactly how you play. Everything will be laid bare before me so I can really assess what we can do. And I generally only do the online lessons thing if the student has very, very, very specific questions that are not really answered on my YouTube videos. Or if someone really wants to be sure of something, then okay, we do online lessons. As I've said, I'm not exactly motivated by money, but at the same time, time is money. So that's another reason. I spend so much time thinking, so much time researching, so much time listening to music so I can make YouTube content. That you guys don't realize how much time that takes. Reading books, reading articles, reading interviews, carefully listening, analyzing, all that stuff. And so when I teach, one thing that's very difficult is of course I want my lessons to be affordable. I'm not motivated by money in that way. I could charge a whole lot more, but I usually don't. I try to teach charge what I think might be kind of fair for me, but also hopefully affordable to the students. Sometimes I even get emails from parts of the world saying, "All right, Dennis, you said you're not motivated by money, so I'm going to offer you $10 an hour. You should accept my lesson because you're not motivated by money." And to that, I want to say this: try to read between the lines. Yeah, I actually get emails like that. Another thing is about teaching is the more I learn, I think I can safely say that I've acquired so much knowledge, maybe far beyond the average musician's knowledge, if I may dare say that. And that one thing happened to me is that the more I know, the harder I find it is for me to actually teach. And I feel that I can't even teach. It's weird in that way. I have all this knowledge, but what am I going to do with it? What can I do with a student? And another thing that's very important is it's not just the teacher. The student is important. One thing that I've realized is how important, no matter what your situation is, that you have to learn on your own. You have to have this drive to seek out information however you can, wherever you can. And it seems like a stupid thing to say, but there's so many people who are not doing this for many reasons. Sometimes reasons related to ego, related to insecurities, or not just being not even aware. Being self-taught, learning on your own, doesn't mean that you don't ask for advice. It means that you have the drive, the initiative to push forward, to seek out answers wherever you can. That means asking people questions, paying them for lessons, going to different teachers and whatnot. Some people seem to have this idea that being self-taught means that you don't take any advice from anyone whatsoever. It's like a question of pride. That's ridiculous. I'm actually self-taught when it comes to a lot of jazz and gypsy jazz, but I certainly asked questions whenever I could. If I could have, I would have taken lessons with people, but in those days there was not really anyone offering lessons. There was one guy playing gypsy jazz in Montreal, not a professional player, and I asked him for lessons because I was just starting out. I didn't know anything, but he didn't want to teach me because he said he wasn't a pro player or whatever the reason was. I definitely tried to get advice wherever I could. So that's the thing. I don't want people to come to me for lessons because they're in a rut. I've made videos about this. I can never be in a rut. I think you can watch a lot of my previous videos. I don't know exactly which one it was, but sometime last year I made a video about this where like the ultimate jazz practice routine or something. If you adopt kind of the philosophy that I adopt, you can never ever be in a rut. So it makes no sense, and that's especially not good because when someone is trying to come to me for lessons to get motivated, it means they lack that self-drive, that self-motivation, which is also very important. Now, of course, maybe they can come to me and we play together and they feel inspired. Okay, that's great. But nonetheless, that self-motivation thing is very, very important. The best teacher you can ever get will be you yourself. And someone like me, if I can be considered a good teacher, I don't know. What I can do is maybe save you some time, steer you in the right direction, get you to think a little bit. That's kind of what I try to do anyway. And help you, steer you in the right direction, hopefully. Speaking of good teachers, what makes a good teacher? I see all these people say, "Oh, I have this great teacher," and I look at them. Sorry, but I see no progress. Like barely any progress after like 2, 3 years, 4 years. Barely any progress, if any at all. So, this good teacher thing, how do you define good? Is it someone that makes you feel psychologically happy? Okay, in that sense, anyone can be a good teacher, but that doesn't mean that you'll learn anything, that you'll progress. As many of you know, I live in Japan now. 2 years ago, before I moved here, I barely spoke any Japanese. I'll make a video about this again someday. But now, I can get by in day-to-day life. Some of you have even traveled to Japan and met me, and you've seen me order, translate for you, help you out, buy tickets and everything, all in Japanese, no Google Translate. I learned to speak Japanese the same way I learned to play jazz guitar. This kind of immersion thing, this self-determination thing. In fact, there's a beautiful Japanese word that I like, kokorozashi. Kokorozashi is drive, determination, resolve. You have to have this strong will to push forward. And so if your desire is to really get good, sometimes you have to realize that a teacher praising you, making you feel good psychologically, is not necessarily what will make you get good. This is a huge topic. I can talk about this. I have talked about this in previous videos. I can make another one at some point again. But then there are teachers who will give you the good stuff. I'm talking about my Japanese skills because 2 years ago, like I said, I did not write Japanese at all. In fact, hold on, let me just pause. Oh, it's right here. Look at this. 1 year ago, December of 2022, I could not read or write. But now, look at this. Hold on. Sorry. A book full of me, me writing different things. I've managed to surpass so many Japanese learners in just 2 years because I applied the right mindset. I go to these community classes offered by the government, and I'm often either the best, the top in my class, or top 5. And usually the people who are better than me tend to be Chinese people or Korean people. And if you don't know, if you're Chinese or Korean, you get to skip so many steps that non-Chinese speaking people or non-Korean speaking people have to go through. But in terms of just being able to communicate smoothness, I've always been the best in my classes because of all these things that I've applied, that I learned from my jazz guitar journey. So what I'm trying to get at is actually, if you have the drive and you can put the effort, the time and effort, it doesn't necessarily have to be practicing 8 hours a day, but it has to be a lifestyle change. And if you can do that, within 1 year, you can completely transform your playing. And I say this because I've met so many people over the years, and maybe you're going to think, oh, you're talking about me. Not necessarily, because like I said, so many people over the past 25 years, people are saying, oh, I'm not ready to be playing out yet. I need to still practice for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And to this day, some of these people still are not able to play with people because they're unable to get past this psychological thing. They spend hours and hours practicing, and maybe they're able to, sorry, but like there's some people who capture themselves at a very certain angle to look a certain way. And then when you meet them in real person, they look nothing like the picture. They have the makeup, they get the right angle, and then when you see them, whoa, are you really that person on the paper? So you can spend a lot of hours every day practicing and have that right angle. But the real life is when you're out there playing with people, and then you get exposed. Everyone sees you for what you are. And the only way to be able to do that is, guess what? To do it. Go out there, meet people, play with them. One reason why I was able to surpass many of my classmates is because me, despite being very introverted, I go out almost every day. I meet people. I force myself into situations where I have to use the real Japanese, not the Japanese from a textbook, the Japanese that actual Japanese use. And from that, I paid attention. I made mental notes sometimes. If there were some things that I wasn't sure about, I tried to memorize what they said. Then I would ask a teacher. And this is why I can speak more natural Japanese than all of my classmates. I hope none of my Japanese teachers see this. I have so many of them. Right now, maybe I have about 8. Most of my Japanese teachers actually don't really know how to teach. But because I know how to learn, I know how to guide them to teach me. I know how to ask the right questions. So I don't always I also know how, because I'm a teacher myself, I spent a lot of time thinking about the psychology of learning. I know how to exploit them, get the most out of each teacher. I can see this teacher's strength is this. With this teacher, we're only going to focus on this. With this teacher, we're only going to focus on this. So you as a student, you have to have this drive. You have to also learn to know yourself and know what you want to go for. So I want to give you something tangible. I've talked about this in previous videos. Let's talk about jazz guitar or gypsy jazz guitar. Generally speaking, jazz guitar is not meant to be played alone. I know there's such a thing as solo jazz guitar, but generally speaking, it's played with people. You need to find people to play with as soon as possible. You need to find good players to play with. Hopefully, wherever you live, there is a community. If there's not, it's not impossible, but it's harder. And that is exactly why some people specifically move to specific cities or specific countries so they can have people to play with. That's already the first thing. Then you gotta learn the repertoire, you gotta learn the tunes. There are so many simple things like that that a lot of people are not doing. Again, often for different reasons like psychological barriers, lack of confidence. Of course, in the beginning, it's very, very daunting. But that's why certain places, certain cities have these beginner jam sessions, guided jam sessions. I know they have tons of those in Tokyo. That's very cool. But I know in Montreal they had that as well, like at the universities or something. They had like this after school program, not after school, but like non accredited jam sessions where people, adults or kids, can sign up to play under the guidance of a teacher. Things like that can be great too. If you watch a lot of my videos, I talk about history, I talk about context, I talk about artistic intentions. Because I can tell you, alright, Gypsy jazz rhythm is played like this, put your hand at this angle, blah blah blah. What I'd rather do is explain to you the history behind all this so that you can form your own opinions. Because there's more than one single way to play Gypsy jazz rhythm. And I'd rather explain it to you from a historical perspective rather than tell you, alright, put your hand like this, do this and that. It's weird because, I do this YouTube thing, this online thing, which by nature, it kind of means I have to get famous. That's what I have to do to make my channel grow. So please like and subscribe. But you know me, like, okay, it's great to be recognized, I'm not gonna lie, but I don't want people to come to me for lessons just because I'm famous. I want you to come to me for lessons if you really think I can help you and you can describe to me your situation. So a lot of people go to whoever's famous just because they're famous. And that's already just the wrong way to go about doing things. There's a very, very famous violin teacher. She passed away a long time ago. She was one in the 20th century. She was arguably one of the most famous in the world. Her name was Dorothy DeLay. But here's a catch. She only took prodigies. Those were her only students. You kind of had to audition to be able to take lessons with her. So was she really a good teacher? Maybe she was. But I think there were a lot of other teachers who could have been just as good in terms of instruction. It's so easy when you build this cult of personality where then you can say, oh, look at all my students. They're all like world-class violinists. Itzhak Perlman, Midori Goto, so many other names, so many big names, high-profile musicians. They were her students. But those students came to her after having studied under other teachers where they reached a really, really high level. This cult of personality thing is a little bit weird. And I don't want that for myself. I really want to help you. Maybe one thing that she had was political connections. So she got all these prodigies and all these record labels or concert promoters, whatever, were asking, hey, who's your next big star? Can I get them for cheap or whatever? And so she would arrange like little things for her star pupils. And that's definitely something very, very good. But in terms of instruction, I don't know. So if you're interested in coming for homestay lessons, I have very, very limited availability. I already have one or two people, one person 100% confirmed, another person maybe 60% confirmed. You can stay for a few days, you can stay for a week. I don't think you can stay for more than a week. I have just so much going on when I'm going to be back in Montreal. So maybe space for 2, 3, 4, depending on how many days. Students this summer, we can work on. Message me, tell me what you want to work on and I'll see if I'm appropriate for you. I've sometimes even discouraged people from taking lessons from me because I don't know exactly what it is that they want. Maybe, you're coming from a jazz background but you want to get into gypsy jazz and you want a crash course, like form some habits. Okay, we can do that. Well, maybe you want to work on George Benson's picking technique. I can show you that. We can work on gypsy jazz picking technique. I can show you that, no problem. Rhythm, gypsy jazz rhythm, swing rhythm, things like that, there's no problem. Harmony, historical harmony, that's also another specialty of mine. But what, like I said, the most important thing is that you yourself have this drive to move forward. You need to have this before even coming to me, in my opinion. I kind of felt bad. One person came to me, spent a whole week with me to learn something very, very, very specific. And we spent a whole week, maybe even 10 days, I don't remember, a whole week together. I helped them form the right habits. I told them, if you continue this way, you will learn it within 6 months. But there's one very important thing. You must not revert to your old technique if you truly want to learn this technique. And guess what? That person went home and reverted to their old technique. Because, I don't know, they have their own reasons, whatever. But I kind of felt like they wasted a lot of money. Well, maybe they had a good time, so that's good. But, yeah. This George Benson technique, I learned it in 2020 during the pandemic. I had nothing else to do. It's a long story. I've talked about this elsewhere. But I can use it now. How I how I got used to the George Benson technique, picking technique, in such a short period of time is precisely what I said to the other person. You must fight the temptation to revert back to your old technique. So I had to it was really hard. Luckily it was during the pandemic, so I didn't really have many gigs. But during the pandemic I was at home or going to jam sessions. In the beginning, it was really hard. Like sometimes I would go to jam sessions and revert back to my old technique, but at one point, gradually I was able to wean myself out of it and tell myself, all right, man, I'm just going to stick with it. And that's what I did. And that's how I got used to it very fast. You have to have this drive yourself. I don't know if I can give it to you. It has to come from within. I can maybe help nudge you in the right direction, encourage you, motivate you. But you yourself need to be your own source of inspiration. How badly do you want something? If you want it that badly, I think you can get it. But you have to confront reality. You have to be realistic. That's yet another video. I think I'll have to think a little bit about this. This being realistic thing is so important. That is the key to being able to progress. I was able to get to a very high level of Japanese because I'm realistic. I have not mastered the language yet. I'm hoping I can get there within, master is a big word, but I hope I can speak to a near native level within 2 or 3 years. Still working on it. But anyway, there we go. If this is something that interests you, let me know. Please let me know your thoughts about your own journey as a student or as a teacher, your own observations. I'd be curious to hear what stories you guys have. Okay, thank you very much.